Hello and welcome to the Rhythm and Roots Show with Rohan and Al of the Dublin City Rounders, your weekly dose of ragtime, music hall, bluegrass, country blues, early jazz, western swing, and more. We got live sessions and interviews with guests local and around the world, recorded at Beardfire Studio, Dublin, Ireland. Be sure to like Rhythm and Roots on Facebook, catch up with the podcast on Spreaker.com, and don't forget you can become a Rhythm and Roots Patreon patron today. Now enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are very, very welcome to Rhythm and Roots on Near FM 90.3 on this Friday afternoon. I am joined in studio by Aaron and Dani McDonnell, all the way from the United States. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for popping in, especially so soon after arriving. And you wouldn't know it from the performances that you are about to hear later on in the studio, but a bit sleepy still, yeah?
Yeah, we're going on about
helped.
an hour of sleep.
Oh, no.
I'm a superhuman. I'm good.
You're surviving. Well, you're in mom mode. This is how that works, isn't it?
I can go another day.
Who needs sleep?
Yeah, it's fine.
So just to tell everybody a little bit about yourselves, I mean, from my perspective, the thing I love about your music and what I've heard of it and what I've seen of it and what we've heard here today in the studio that the people will be able to hear now in a moment is that it's hugely respectful of the classic country greats, of the George Jones, Tammy Wynette, that beautiful alchemy that occurs when when the male and female voice come together, and particularly for those who don't know, you're a husband and wife duo as well, and it's got that wonderful strength that comes through, Johnny and June and Emmylou Harris and Graham Parsons. There's a great tradition and history in it, and it comes through clearly. But at the same time, it's incredibly fresh and great to hear your voice as well, Aaron. Just it's baritone. Is that where you would sit, or how does that work?
I'd say so.
Yeah. It's so warm. It's so warm. I can't believe it. Anyway, I'll stop fangirling here for a minute. I'll let you guys do a little bit of talking. Obviously, you guys come from different parts of the country, different musical backgrounds, and you both are solo artists in your own right. Have released music. Dani, you've released EPs and all that kind of stuff. And Aaron, you have the band. And obviously, when you come together, you have an alchemy that is produced a synergy there. I guess I'll start with Aaron. Mm-hmm. What was your introduction to music? What did you grow up listening to? Was it a musical family, or did you strike out on your own? How did it all start for you?
I started playing guitar when I was 15 and started taking, our pastor at our church was offering free guitar lessons.
All right. So
that's kind of how it started. At the time, I'm from the Northwest, and that was in the 90s, and so it was all grunge, right? Yeah. So I still, Pearl Jam's probably my favorite band still.
Yeah, great, yeah.
Probably?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And Nirvana, all that stuff. So that's what I liked all that stuff growing up, and later in high school got more into country and that whole thing. Got a muscle car and started, chewing and working on a farm. And
what kind of muscle car?
Getting into the whole thing. I had a 1969 Firebird.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you mean with the tail thing and all that?
That didn't happen until later in the 70s, so this was like a first generation.
Yeah,
it was a little classier.
Oh, yeah, I somewhat agree. It's a little bit on the nose, isn't it? That's pure spoilers. Like you can't even look at the rest of the car. It's just there,
No, yeah, that's like the Bandit. Don't get me wrong. That's the 77, though. It's different.
Oh, I love
That's a different conversation. But
we just become a car podcast all of a sudden here.
But yeah, and then went to school and kind of played at parties. I was the annoying guy that brings an acoustic guitar to the party, and it's like, who's this guy? But
you're still that guy.
No, I really try not to. Now that I do it for a living, I'm like, I prefer to just hang out.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, but just kind of did the normal stuff, went to college, got a corporate job in Seattle, and did the band thing on the side, and lived kind of a double life for many years.
Yeah.
And went through a couple crazy, Fleetwood Mac type situations, love triangles in the band and breaking up. Spend all the money on the record and you break up before it even comes out, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we were well on our way to that type of a situation when Dani joined the last band in Seattle that we were in. I was like, we do not need any more girl singers in the band, believe me. And
recipe for trouble, yeah.
Yeah, just a disaster waiting to happen.
I mean, so people ask, like, how did you meet? And we're like, Craigslist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sounds really bad. Yeah.
It does sound
Sounds
really bad. Very.
But it was our drummer at the time. He's like, we need a girl singer. I'm like, no, we do not need a girl singer. So we posted the ad without me even knowing.
Okay.
And it was just an ad.
A super pompous ad.
Yeah, it was like, you could tell it better than I can.
Seeking attractive female vocalists that can sing backup and take lead sometimes.
That's all it said.
And so I wrote back, I fit your requirements, period.
I love the confidence.
Well, it's such a stupid way to solicit a female musician. So
you could have ended up in the back of a van answering that.
Oh, it gets so much worse. I drove to this industrial part of Seattle to meet a man that I don't know off this, off Craigslist, and then. We do meet, and you can obviously, he doesn't look very shady. He's very sweet. But I then proceed to go upstairs into the windowless soundproof room
after
to
we'd
try
had
out.
4 beers and 4 shots.
And when I told
we got to talking,
the first time I told the story, and I was like, I'm so lucky he wasn't a murderer.
Yeah.
But turns out
there's a song in that somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky he wasn't a murderer.
That's a great country song.
It is, isn't it?
So relatable.
Yeah.
So Danny, your background in music, what do you call it? The Gulf region in Mexico is where you grew up?
I call it the Gulf Coast.
Gulf Coast.
I'm from the southeast side of Houston, Texas.
Right.
So I am closer to the water than I am to the city.
Okay.
So very coastal. So there's a grit down there. So you got
ZZ Top.
ZZ Tops from that area, and it's
so Southern rock, kind of even
Southern
more
rock,
than
but,
kind of country, or
you got country, but it's Southern rock. But there's also this like blues. We're so close. I mean, we're really not that far from Louisiana,
Yeah.
so there's just this grit down there, and I feel like I love country, but there is something so soulful about Houston, and I think that you can hear that a little bit, some raspy. I just call it. There's just a Gulf Coast grit.
Yeah. The sand.
The sand. There's something in it. It's in the back of my throat.
She's growing up in the dust storm. I'll do that too. But it's like the wonderful thing. I think about like what you guys are doing, and I think it's a case for any really good musical act is that. You take a foundation of something like country music or classic country or something like that, but obviously because you're creating it and because you've got that grunge influence and you've got that southern, whether it's like you said, that kind of the blues and the bayou and all that, and it comes through, and that's what creates something that is unique to what you guys do. It comes out in the music that you're playing and in the sound.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
because it's easy to get. We're based in Austin, Texas now, and have been down there for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And you kind of, at least we have really catered. There's a 2-stepping dance community. And very traditional, type of music that typically gets played. And so, it's like that whole dance hall culture. It's easy to
get
just kind of follow the rules, right? Yeah. And so, I don't know. I try hard to be like, okay, let's do something that's just a little bit left of center.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that, because it's like if you want to listen to Ray Price, listen to Ray Price. Why would you try to listen to a guy trying to sound like Ray Price?
Exactly. And I think that's what you've got the opportunity to do with your own music and your recordings, whatever, is you've got that opportunity to expand it out and find new audiences as well. Mm-hmm. Because one thing I like listening to some of the videos online of you guys, particularly with the band, boy, it's incredibly, some of the tracks are incredibly like authentic, which I love. And what I mean by that is, I'm not the biggest fan of the country music of probably the last 30 odd years or so in terms of how it's developed down the pop country route. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even Garth Brooks would be a step too far for me. I wouldn't really, you know what I mean? I kind of, I don't know if that's a controversial point or not, but the,
Nope.
the last, I guess And unless it went down that kind of, unless it started to incorporate elements of different genres. I mean, you think of an extreme example, you've got Hank 3 and things like that, where it's like punk and metal and all that kind of stuff, and with a cowboy hat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's taken it to that extreme. But I love when I hear something that is truly like authentic and sounds like it's everyone in the band has done their research, but they're doing it in their own way. I think that's the best, you know.
I think it's also taken some time for us to even learn how to sing together. I think this has really been something that's developed over time. Because I would say when we first started singing together, we were on two different sides of the
I'm
the
still a
country
terrible
spectrum.
harmony singer, so Danny kind of bears the brunt of that.
Yeah.
But I think also moving down to Texas, you find players that either grew up listening to this type of music. So there's just something about they feel it. I think it was harder in the Northwest to find people to play the type of music that we were wanting to play.
Austin just has a wealth of just fantastic players.
It is true. We're very spoiled.
Yeah, and our band isn't. They're not all from Texas. Actually, only our steel players from Texas.
Yeah, I can hear that.
And our guitar player.
And guitar. And guitar player.
And drummer and bass player.
No, drummer's from Massachusetts and our bass player's from Idaho.
Okay.
Yeah, but they all been down there for a while and have played all sorts of different things, and we're really lucky to be playing with those guys.
Yeah, they're just insanely talented
but
people.
Your steel player's unreal. Like, you can tell that you don't. I think you can't. You don't. That's not a sound you learn later in life. You know, I feel like that's the kind of sound that you have to have been steeped in from the very beginning. You know,
it's
I agree with that.
Crazy machine that I don't understand, but it's like my favorite. It's like my favorite sound on earth.
What a sound, isn't it?
Can I also say that I think he thinks he might be pretty good.
Yeah, he knows he's good.
That's what you want, man.
Love you,
confidence.
Simon.
Yeah. So you're here. You're in Ireland. This is your first time in Ireland. This is your first day in Ireland.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, we've only been here for a handful of hours.
Yeah, and you've already sang 2 songs and had a cup of coffee and a glass of water. Irish water. How was the Irish water? Was it pretty good?
Delicious.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really weird for me to have cold water come out of the faucet cold.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing for me because in Texas that doesn't happen.
No, same as in Australia. You know, you got to put that in a jug in a fridge for a couple hours
That's
in
like
order
ice.
to enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to some Irish beer and whiskey after this, though.
Oh, yeah.
That'll wake us up.
Do you like Guinness?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we had one in New York last night just so we could compare and see what the difference is over
Keep
here.
It fresh, you know. Like, and the
because
first
I heard
thing
it
you
is
drink,
different over here.
Oh, it's different, yeah. I mean, it's
much
different
better.
pub to pub, you know,
as
well.
It?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But you can't go too far wrong anywhere in the city. But there's definitely, like, you can Google, like, best Guinness in Dublin, and they'll have, like, rankings and stuff.
Okay.
So have a look at
Right.
that.
That would have never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's all about the pull of the pint and all that. I don't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't be in Austin and be like, the best Lone Star. That would not.
It's pretty much the same.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're here at Willkommen, as we say here in Ireland.
What
We
is
don't.
that?
That's
what-
German.
I was like, that's why I was like, that's.
Clearly, we're very cultured.
No, but I know, because Texas has a lot of German heritage, and I was like, why do you say that?
I could have made up some great story.
Well, yeah, because it's on the Fredericksburg welcome sign, and so I was like,
Yeah, there's a little German town we play in all the time called Fredericksburg, Texas.
and so I was like, why do you say that?
No,
I was very confused.
No,
with
I completely
your...
just made that up. So that was my weird sense of humor coming through there.
Get out the Google Translate.
Yeah. So you are what do they say, Falcher? To Falcher Rove or whatever it is when you ring up RTE. Falcher is welcome in Ireland in Irish.
Okay.
So we'll have a little look at some of these dates coming up over the next while. The 17th, you kick things off tonight, because that's when this is airing. All the way up in Derry, straight away up in Claudy in Derry at the Rusty Spur, which is a very apt sounding place.
Sounds very Western.
Yeah. That sounds like the right place for you guys and for people who enjoy your kind of music to catch is. The very next night on January 18th, Fealties in Bangor in County Down. January 19th, which would be a Sunday, I guess, at that stage, would it be?
I have no idea.
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah.
The Bailey Cafe Bar in Enniscorthy. Enniscorthy's a great town with great history. Vinegar Hill, the Battle of Vinegar Hill. Father Murphy, a relative of ours, myself and Al, there. And we did some shows there. It's a great city. Very hilly. I hope you don't mind hills.
Love
we can do that.
Because your calves will
we live in the Texas Hill Country.
Yeah, we live in the hill country.
There you go. You'll survive then. And then on the 25th, you get a day off on the Monday. That's good. You can enjoy yourselves. Where are you spending the 20th? Are you spending the night in Enniscorthy, I suppose?
I think we're going to go to Killarney.
Ooh, very nice.
Is that where the medieval mile?
No, that's Kilkenny.
Kilkenny is a very medieval town.
That's the one we're going to.
Yeah.
So we're spending time in that town and then Galway, and those are our days
also
off.
in Kilkenny.
A medieval mile is what we
but they do a great. I mean, Ireland's the Republic of Ireland's probably premier kind of Roots Festival is called the Kilkenny Roots Festival, and it's on every year, and it's very cool. So this is something you guys should definitely look into for when you are back. For Folk Sake, which sounds like a radio show. I hope so.
That's it. Yeah,
I think so.
Drive 105.3 FM. Then you're at Boyles of Slane, which is a great, really reputable, great venue there. That's there's a Slane castle. I mean, there's castles every 5 minutes, in Ireland, but that's where they do big shows in the castle there, Foo Fighters and stuff like that. And before the big shows, they usually do a little gig in Boyles the night before. That's obviously in Meath. Then the Athy, I think this is pronounced Athy, not Athy.
That's good to know.
Arts Centre in Kildare, which is close enough to Dublin as well. So if you're about in any of those places, and obviously on Facebook, what's the social media wise? What's the best place for people to find you? By the way,
I like Instagram.
Yeah,
at Honky Tonk Aaron is my handle.
But then it's Aaron McDonnell Music on Facebook.
Yeah, Aaron McDonnell or AaronMcDonnell.com.
Yeah. And Danny's you've got a website as well.
I do have a website. It's Dani McDonnell.
DannyMcDonnell.com.
But that is, I did not update that for this tour. I'm really riding Aaron's coattails on this one.
Okay.
So everyone go to Aaron's stuff.
You've got a 10-month-old baby. Everyone will give you a break.
10-month-old, full-time job.
Yeah, man.
I'm a busy woman.
Star.
That's the meaning of glamorous right there.
We're going to have to wrap up the interview fairly shortly, but we're going to have a listen to, why don't you pick one of the tracks? We'll play it straight after this interview that you did live just there, and give us a little background on it. Put you on the spot here.
Should we talk about the duet?
No, talk about the new song.
Okay. There's a song called "Tell the Devil."
I like this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not released yet. It's kind of in the bank. We got to do a few more overdubs on it, and we're sort of releasing things as singles this time around, and then we'll compile them onto a record when they're done. So it'll be out probably this spring. But I don't know. It's just sort of self-explanatory if you listen to the lyrics. But we're getting a little bit older, and maybe the partying is not as conducive to our bodies and what they're capable of. But also, I don't know. I just
4
had
beers and 4 shots before.
It's also, as artists, we tend to get down at certain times about things not working out the way we hoped they would, or as quickly as we hoped they would. So I had this picture of people flocking to Los Angeles to be a star, and that sort of fizzling out, and then just wanting to kind of reconnect with the people back home and things like that. So.
That's great.
And what's the line about sleeping underneath the pool table? You got that from somewhere?
It's a Texas songwriter from the 70s. They just did a documentary on him. Ethan Hawke did it.
Is this a lyric in one of his songs?
No, it's a story about him where he was so drunk he was literally just sleeping under a pool table in the bar, and they were touting this as something that was like, oh, wasn't that so cool? And I was like, He wrote one of my favorite Merle Haggard songs, but I didn't think that was cool necessarily.
Yeah.
Being in your own bed would feel better.
Much better. Much more kind of responsible, and shows that you got your life together
Blaze
a little
Foley.
bit more.
Blaze Foley.
Blaze Foley, right. Okay.
I'm not talking smack. Love it. If I Could Only Fly is one of my favorite songs for when I'm grilling outside at home. So,
Oh man,
no
that
disrespect.
sounds amazing. I'd love a big Texas barbecue now. What have you done to me? It's January
Texas
here in
barbecue.
Ireland.
I had to when we moved down there.
Barbecue.
It's different than grilling.
Barbecue is actually
okay.
smoked brisket and sausage and barbecue everywhere else in the U.S. Besides probably Kansas and the Carolinas is like just cooking on your grill.
Right. Okay.
And that's not accurate.
So okay. Wait a minute. So you're in Texas, but you're not Texas barbecuing. You're just grilling.
We're just I'm not that advanced.
When he says
Okay.
grilling, he's lying.
Why?
Because there's nothing. I mean, I guess that's.
What do you mean grilling? I am grilling.
Oh, sorry, barbecuing.
Yeah.
I don't say.
no,
I didn't say the word barbecue.
No,
I
it's
am
clarified. It's all
I am
good.
correct.
Sorry, guys.
There's lots of little things like that.
I'm
Like,
going to
you guys
claim
haven't slept
sleep
for-
deprived
Right,
now.
it's
like in
Yeah.
Texas, you can't have beans in your chili.
Why?
Because it's from the like Mexican dish chili con carne,
Right.
so it's meat. So that's.
I don't necessarily agree with that. We have heated
I'm
discussions with
just
her family
telling you
members.
why.
I
it's
enjoy
that
some
way.
beans in the chili. I'm just saying.
So, because obviously you go a bit further south, and there's plenty of beans in the chili, right?
Oh yes, the South and Texas are have many
No,
similarities.
No,
Mexico.
south of Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, South.
South.
South. Yes,
yeah,
south
yeah.
of Texas.
Is it and why? Like, what's the issue?
Well, they don't put beans in their chili in Mexico.
Why
That's what
not?
he's saying.
Do they?
Because the
Where
dish
did
is
that come from?
well the dish is chili con carne,
It's
so
filler.
it's like
It's for poor people that can't. That's what your uncle says.
Oh my gosh, that is horrible.
It's just a joke.
You can probably
this.
he falls on anyway.
Anyway, that's Uncle's opinion.
There's a generational gap there.
But you see, because we often will grab a burrito at the local burrito place here, and there are beans.
Yes, of
In the
course.
chili.
Yeah.
It's
However-
not burrito con carne.
No, but there's beans in the chili.
But they call it chili. They call it chili con carne with beans in. I know.
Yeah.
I know. So
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
down
guys.
with that.
I feel like
I got no problem with that.
I don't mind the beans either. I'm just
You're a beanist.
Yeah.
But anyway, this all started
we
from me
do
imagining
beef
this
really
grill,
well.
you know.
We're very good at
So what
beef.
goes on the grill? Sorry, I've got totally off track here, but
What goes on the grill?
Big fan of salmon these days.
very nice.
And
they have great salmon here in Ireland.
Oh, yeah?
Top salmon, yeah.
Great.
Smoke
Been
it.
brining chicken.
Whatty chicken?
Yeah, but brining it first. I don't know if you guys have
You
gotten
put
into
it
that.
in brine,
Yeah.
Yes.
like tuna.
Like
Oh yeah, I guess so.
yeah.
Is brine seawater?
Yeah,
What's
it's just salt water.
I
and
mean,
so it's
ooh.
much more
We don't
tender.
go to
and-
the sea to get it.
You
We
get
just make
buckets of
it.
it.
Yeah.
How do you? Oh, like you get water and just put salt.
Yeah.
In it? I'm learning so much here. Culinary treats.
Yeah.
Wow. So you put it in you put it in the fridge
You really don't have to do it for more than 20 or 30 minutes, and it makes
Okay.
a huge difference.
We try to eat healthy. We don't really eat like the Tex-Mex and the barbecue unless people are in town. Because
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
eat that stuff
Yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
day,
You can't walk
no.
anymore.
It's
So if you like walking,
it's not good for you. I mean, we have something and it's just a Tex-Mex thing. So queso is just obviously
yeah.
cheese in Spanish, but it's like a cheese dip.
I know what
right?
queso
so
is.
like
Yeah.
if you leave Texas and you are in like Kansas and you ask for queso, they're gonna look at you like what? And
what if you're not in Kansas anymore?
Oh.
I see what you mean.
They threw him a
I
softball on that
I
one.
really set him up. But it's weird. Like when you think about it, like you're just dipping chips in cheese and then consuming it, and then we're like, yeah, that's totally normal.
It's totally fine.
Totally fine. It's great
my
for you.
heart doesn't work, but it's totally fine.
I mean, it's tasty, but it's terrible for you. So,
Well, listen, gosh, I feel like we could probably talk all day about all sorts of things. But just if you're around the country, do get down and see these guys live in concert. It is incredibly beautiful, genuine music for lovers of classic country music, alt country, but just music in general as well. It's really really quite beautiful. So do get down and see Aaron and Dani McDonnell. Get online, to check out those dates again. They're playing all around the country between January 14th and 24th. So do get down and do enjoy this live rendition of the track. What's it called? The Devil one?
Tell the Devil.
Tell the Devil. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this live rendition of Tell the Devil, and thank you so much, Aaron and Dani, for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Wild West, wild nights, dark days, bright lights, sing me back home. Turn around this old car, forget the girls on the boulevard, and just hand me the phone. Calling out to my old friends I ain't seen, and the life I had before. Raising hell is getting old just like me. Tell the devil I just don't like him anymore. Sometimes it hurts just to breathe, and I'm sleeping underneath this old pool table in a bar. But I'm in style, so that'll hold me over for a while. Until morning I'll be a star. Calling out to my old friends I ain't seen, and the life I had before. Raising hell is getting old just like me. Tell the devil I just don't like him anymore. Raising hell is getting old just like me. Tell the devil I just don't like him anymore.
Beautiful song there from Aaron and Dani McDonnell, touring Ireland at the moment. So do get out and check them out and get online. Follow their journey. Lots of great music coming from them in the new year 2020. We're going to take a little short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to David Tapley of Tandem Felix. So do join us for that on Rhythm and Roots on Near FM after this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're all very welcome back to Rhythm and Roots on Near FM 90.3 FM on the internet and on the radio on the FM. My name is Rohan, and we are here for the second part of our program with David Tapley, who is joining us in the studio today to play a couple of songs and do a little bit of an interview. David is the creative force, the major creative force behind Tandem Felix, who we have featured on the program before, coming out of a very, very, very cool 2019 for them. Some really good shows and a beautiful album, rom-com, which made the last mixtapes album of the year, deservedly so. So thank you very much, David, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've wanted to get you in probably since November, and then there was all sorts of things here and there, so I'm so glad we've finally been able to make it happen.
Yeah, some scheduling conflicts, but I'm here now.
That's it. That's all that matters, and we're not letting him leave. He belongs to us now. We were talking about it before. I probably can't go into a whole lot of detail how we first came across your music, but so glad we did. I suppose for those who maybe aren't familiar with the music, I'll let you describe it yourself, but when I listen to it, I hear influences of the likes of Elliott Smith, who I love, And also, I don't know. There's even little bits of the Pixies to me, and a little bit of even a little bit of Weezer and that kind of post punk, post hardcore, this kind of. It's got a lovely nostalgic vibe while feeling very current as well. And one thing in particular that I thought was interesting, we'll talk about this in a moment, is you seem to also have a great affinity for kind of like Americana and the blues and things like that as well, which feeds in there. But to ask a question, because I'm interviewing you, not myself, how did you, what was the process to finding the sound that is Tandem Felix, in your opinion?
Well, the last release we had before the album came out, the last sort of large form thing, was an EP called Comma in 2016, 15, a while ago anyway, last decade. There was a lot of kind of self-imposed rules that I had dreamed up at the start of that, making that album.
Genre-wise, or
kind of almost more like studio rules, you know. Like I didn't want to use reverb, I didn't want to use electric guitars, didn't really want to use synthesizers or a huge amount of effects, which I'd previously done quite a lot of. I wanted to try and make something that sounded very wooden, in the literal sense, like sound like wooden guitars, and we didn't quite get the double bass in there, but like violin and all that sort of stuff, piano, rather than sort of sonic exploration, into the world of psychedelia or whatever. I wanted to try and make it. I'm trying my best not to use the word organic here, but that sort of thing. I wanted everything to sound sort of real. We played most of it live,
natural and present, and like you're there in the room with the people performing it.
No studio trickery if possible. Now, we broke those rules a couple of times, which are, rules are made to be broken and all that sort of stuff. But making Rom-Com was sort of a reaction to that, which was having these self-imposed rules, being able to sort of reincorporate all that stuff back into the recording process and the album making process, which was I don't know, sort of like delayed gratification or something, wanting to be able to use distortion and wanting to use cool delay sounds and play with all these weird effects and all these weird things that we had bought for the studio back when we were recording Comma. So that's kind of how we arrived at that one. And we just kind of went hell for leather. There was no rules at all. There was
look, it's like, honestly, it's a beautifully produced work.
Thank you.
It's kind of I suppose when you listen to certain types of music to immediately, I think it communicates itself really well. As in, when you listen to it, it just sounds incredibly. The word I'm looking for is like, you meant it. You meant it. It's like, this is exactly what I'm receiving, what they meant to sound like, what they wanted to sound like. And I know, working in the studio, very often things will turn up. Deliberate is the word I was looking for. It's like there's a vision that's been realized, and it can be shared and consumed almost on a one-to-one kind of basis, whereas, it's not always, and it doesn't even necessarily reflect that it's a terrible record or something, but sometimes a record, I love the Smiths, and I think some of their earlier records are a bit messy at times, and it's still a great record. But you can kind of tell almost listening to it that there's things, they probably would have liked to have done better or spend a bit more time on things like that. Whereas, again, just listening to Rom-Com, it just sounds incredibly kind of deliberate and well delivered. But in terms of like the influences, individual artists that have influenced, like what was the first music that inspired you to start making music when you were younger?
To go back to sort of day one, I guess. I mean, the first band that I would have listened to that would have made me want to pick up a guitar would have been Nirvana.
Yeah.
And I think, 49 out of the first 50 guitar riffs or whatever that I learned to play were Nirvana songs, and that was I even though I was maybe 11 or 12 when I picked it up, I still do find that I kind of gravitate to some of the things that are in those 3 Nirvana albums, or and the kind of associated releases around those or whatever, which is funny. It's something every now and then, I don't listen to them all that often now, but every now and then I'll dip back.
Hugely influential for that period.
But I'll dip back in, and I guess you're so much more of a sponge when you're when you're really young, and
Yeah.
I find that there's still like Cobain-esque things that I have a tendency towards,
Yeah.
or even, you know, maybe it's unintentional that the other music that I would listen to would also have
Been inspired.
those
It'd
sort of
come through that
things.
path.
Yeah, even just simple like chord progressions that
Yeah.
I tend to go to quite often, like finding major chords in a place where you think they're, you know, according to the specific scale or whatever,
Yeah.
should be a minor chord. Like, I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that would be, you know, that would be found in things like Radiohead and a lot of 90s music.
Yeah,
I
very much so.
think-
That might, you know, playing the major six instead of a minor and things like that, and just jumping straight outside of the you know, the Nashville numbered system to find something
Absolutely.
that lifts you in a different way.
Yeah.
And Nirvana did that great, that kind of unexpected chord, you know,
Yes.
and it's kind of phenomenal because it's like it's always unexpected. I mean, it's, what are we, 25 years later or something?
Yeah.
And it still gives you that feeling, you know, that you don't find when you're following the kind of the major scale, basically.
Yeah, I always do wonder if Kurt Cobain hadn't died, if he would have become one of onto the gigantic pile of sort of washed up grunge MTV media darlings, if he would have actually made it through to the other side and started doing,
And developed.
you know, maybe he'd be making a trap record in
Yeah.
in 2020, or, you know, like similar with people like, you know, Paul McCartney, who's definitely outstayed his welcome in making records, whatever, you know. Those Beatles
remember-
are dying in the wrong order, as they say.
Well, it depends what conspiracy theories you believe. We might be on Paul McCartney number 6 by this stage.
That's
anyway,
true.
who knows?
That is
But
very true.
It was great. I don't know. Are you a fan of Alan Partridge?
I am a fan of Alan Partridge.
I just felt it, you know. But I just remember there's a bit in it's one of the I Am Alan Partridge, one of the seasons when he's staying in that B&B or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and the guy that the young guy at the reception, he says, "What's your favorite Beatles album?" You know, and he says, "Oh, I'd have to say the best of the Beatles."
Yes.
You know, and then he says, "Have you ever heard?" Alan Partridge says, "Have you ever heard Wings?" And the young guy says, "Who's Wings?" He goes, "Oh, only the band the Beatles could have been."
Yes, exactly. Even McCartney was showing early signs of it from even the mid-70s. I do love Paul McCartney. I
Live and let die.
I have to specify that he is my fave, but
Yeah, he's great.
he didn't make a single good record after like 1976 or something.
No, it's true, and that, I think, you know, it's the alchemy of the Beatles was and the synergy. They made incredible work together, and
Yes.
I love Walls and Bridges. I love a lot of the post Beatles Lennon stuff more
No,
than
totally. Yeah,
you
me
know,
too.
more
George
than
Harrison as well.
Harrison, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're forgetting someone, but anyway.
Moving on. I said we were in Burger King yesterday, and ELO came on, and I said to Alex, ELO, the band the Beatles could have been.
Yeah, maybe.
I actually love ELO. I think
Well,
they're
it's
brilliant.
no mistake that no coincidence that they got Jeff Lynne in
Yeah.
to do all the 93
I know.
release for the anthology and stuff like that. Like, he
Yeah.
did seem like a fairly appropriate sort of successor to, I guess, George Martin or whatever.
he's an incredible producer, and his orchestration and his use of orchestral stuff and,
Yes.
and effects and things like that.
Yeah,
Evil
totally.
Woman is, oh man. Anyway, this is the Jeff Lynne podcast here
Yes.
now. But yeah, it's obvious, I guess, even just from chatting there, that you've got a great understanding and a great backlog, and I think this is really important. And I think it shows on the record as well. It's like when you're listening to it, you can hear that there's a great understanding of the history of music, of not just the last 30 years and grunge, but going back.
Yes.
And this is something that like is hugely important when you're listening to music. If people are only kind of, if someone's favorite band is from 20 years ago, and that's kind of where they're starting, you've got to listen to the bands that were your favorite bands, and then what their favorite bands.
I
favorite
think
bands
so.
were.
Yeah, that's definitely how I find a lot of
Yeah.
the best stuff. I guess before the sort of the algorithmic world we live in today existed, I definitely found a lot of stuff like I'd be a big Beck fan as well.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
Beck's
someone who didn't really make music before the 1990s, but he does a whole lot of like he often in the 90s or the early 90s did like guest DJ sets on KCRW, and he'd play an hour of music, and in that hour of music he might play 10 songs, 12 songs, but you'd find 10 or 12 bands you just never heard of.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff, you know, I'm not going to say I discovered Woody Guthrie by listening to him that way or whatever, but it's that sort of stuff. Like you find in the early 90s, he was big into like banjo players like Mississippi John Hurt and all these sort of, Mississippi John Hurt is his harmonica reference, but who's the banjo guy? I was listening to him talk about the other day.
You're not talking about, is he a black fella or a white fella?
I think he's a black guy named, it escapes me anyway, but just all these sorts of like old, Mississippi Delta blues references and stuff, which I'm never going to fully incorporate into my own musical creation, but definitely in terms of like learning what he listened to, I guess can.
You're like, sorry, not to finish your sentence, but the point is, it's not always a cognitive decision to go, I'm going to do, an EAB 12-bar blues here, or I'm going to, but when you can't help but filter through your knowledge base when you're creating, like it goes through that, like a sieve, and what is there will influence it in some way, and it brings me like to another point as well, because you were saying, we had Dory Freeman on the show last year.
Yes. Love Dory.
And she's great. She's wonderful. Another one, Rachel Bayman, was amazing. She played the banjo on the show.
Cool.
Great artist from the States as well, in that kind of, old country Americana kind of mold. Now, again, listening to your music, the first thing that hits you is not alt country or Americana, but maybe it's me because I've listened to a lot of that, but you can sense it almost.
Yes.
There's an essence there. But what was it? Is it the Beck stuff that first sent you down that kind of rabbit hole to the more Americana or old country stuff, or how did you come across that?
Yeah, it was probably that. That and a generous helping of Bob Dylan's music from a certain period, maybe 69 to the mid 70s or something, before he went all religious, and before things started sounding too 80s or whatever. So that stuff was very influential, even just like learning the standards that they would have learned. Like I always kind of felt outside of the Irish traditional music thing. I've never really been massively taken by, hearing a say a Dubliner song for the first time, but then hearing, like there's a version of Wild Mountain Time that Bob Dylan does at the Isle of Wight 69 festival. Yeah. And now I can listen to those, Irish musicians playing that Irish or possibly Scottish song, I'm not sure. And it makes sense to me. I don't know, I feel like I kind of need it translated into about 7 different, versions by non-Irish people or something to really get it. And I don't know if that's just my non-Irish music upbringing, in that, if Kurt Cobain sung it, maybe I'd understand it, but maybe it's
Kurt Cobain's Whiskey in the Jar.
Yeah, that maybe that stuff kind of comes with age as well.
Then you're saying, and then you get an appreciation. I suppose my experience, my brother and I's uncle, one of them, Uncle Alan, he was big in the traditional scene in Sydney. They all emigrated. That family emigrated. Our father's family emigrated in the 70s. All of them, 5 brothers, 5 sisters, big family. And but prior to that, Alan and my other uncle Paul, they would go around the country, and this is in the 1960s in Ireland, and they would travel the country to Galway and different parts, and you'd actually have to find a guy who's the guy that knows how to play that song, that tune, and then try and incorporate it. And the Dubliners did the same, and the Clancys and all them. And so when my uncle was in Australia, when the Clancys would go over, or the Pogues, Shane McGowan and all them, he'd be their contact, and he'd organise the gigs with them. But I was lucky enough, I suppose, when I was younger, when I was first playing guitar, to be a little bit in that environment, and it's not like, to be honest, I wouldn't stick on a, probably a Dubliners record or whatever, just for my listening pleasure. But it's a great resource to be able to access. And it is, hugely. Liam Clancy. We actually had Liam Clancy's son, Donald Clancy, on the show a little while ago.
Amazing.
And Liam, of course, was a great friend of Bob Dylan, and helped Bob, I suppose, explore more the Irish tradition.
Sure.
Because Bob obviously got a lot from Woody Guthrie as well. Yeah. But yeah, Nashville Skyline, is an amazing
that would have
record.
been a fairly early country influence for me.
Yeah, and isn't it unreal? Like a perfect record.
Very short.
It's beautiful.
Only 9 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sounds amazing.
Sounds amazing.
Playing.
Totally changed his
voice,
you know, for the performance. It's
but it's beautiful.
It's just it's beautiful. But yeah, anyway, gosh, we could literally talk all night. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, enjoying the show. I've actually forgot we were doing a radio show there for a second, so I'm going to come back to this. Tandem Felix is the name of the band. Rom-Com is the new album. David is who we are speaking to in studio today. Get online. What's the best place to find you guys? Instagram and all that?
I would say just do a cursory Google search for Tandem Felix and you'll find where you need to go. If you want to see pictures, it'll take you to the Instagram. If you want to hear music, it'll take you to some sort of Spotify or Bandcamp. And if you want to email us, I'm sure there's a contact form on our website.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know where to get it.
You know, and
it's
look,
the 21st century.
Let's be real here. Tandem Felix, it's not exactly the most used phrase. I've got to ask briefly
there was
about
another band actually in Dublin.
Impossible. It's called Tandem Felix.
I feel like we may have found it through the same medium, which was... Were you about to ask where the name came from?
Yeah.
Well, it was in a science book, which was published by an Irish...
Right, so it was in everyone's leaving cert, kind of.
Yeah. Now, this band was I mean, I've had the name Tandem Felix since I was 15 years old.
Right,
I've used that as a means to put out music for that amount of time. It's only in recent years we've actually started kind of doing sort of meaningful releases or whatever.
Yeah.
But they had the MySpace. You know, they had myspace.com/Tandem Felix, and you look at it and you see that they're from Dublin. So I've never actually met anyone in that band. But every now and then
do they still
every now and then someone will mistake us and say, "Did I see you play in?"
They're current.
No, they broke up in like 2006 or something.
Okay,
but
you've outlived MySpace and
yeah,
the other
yeah. But their MySpace probably still has more plays than most of our stuff.
Amazing.
So I'll rue the day.
Oh no!
I will find you, other Tandem Felix.
That's amazing.
And we'll have a showdown.
That is absolutely bizarre. It's funny. We had a guy on here, a guy called Brett Perkins, and he does Pawn Shop Preachers is the name of his act. But there's another guy in America called Brett Perkins who is a preacher, and he's on Spotify. They're both on. They got in touch. They had to figure it all out.
Yeah,
you know, they're friends now. You know, bizarre. So it does happen. But
Case of mistaken identity.
Yes, but also just one more thing I really want to mention, because it is something that is great to see. You released the record on vinyl as well.
Yes.
And it seems to be an item that people are really keen to take hold of, which is great. I think as we move more and more away from the tangible, there will become an increasing small at first, but I think it'll increase the desire to have something physical to hold.
It's already
and enjoy.
happening. I think
it's
vinyl
happening.
Sales are increasing year upon year.
Yeah,
ever
100%.
since 2000 and odd. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that from a production perspective, it's a bit of an investment, and it's an investment for people to take something, but it's worth it. It's you get to enjoy the art, you get to have that feeling. Mm-hmm. It reminded me, we were just talking about The Mighty Wind before we went on.
Yes.
Do you remember the scene where it was the Folksmen? I've seen this film a number of times.
That's the trio, the Spinal Tap guys. Yeah.
And they were on the big label. It was something like Folktown Records or whatever. And then they got brought down to like the sub-label Folktone. and they said one of the problems they were saying, we had no distribution, but they also said that the records didn't come with a hole in the middle. But they said, you poke a hole in that, you have a great time. They said it'd just teeter on the pin. Anyway, so get online, find the real Tandem Felix, the current Tandem Felix, Rom-Com. You put any of that online, and you will find them. And if you have yourself a record player, do grab the vinyl as well. There will be gigs coming up in 2020. Lots happening with these guys over the course of the year. So do keep an eye and do enjoy these live tunes from David performing himself in the studio. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Enjoy and take care.
A night in the city with the washed up and their offspring so confused. In the upstairs, tied to the nightclub
by the laces of my boots. 'Cause I'm with a friend now, and he's hung up by fallopian tubes of toothpaste, and the scoreboard is showing me the news. Do you have to be so crude? Another night at the city, the capital coughed up, and the tourist in me cheers for the weeknight and the stage fright of queuing to get my beers. And my feet hurt and my head hurts, and they're playing the song from the radio, the top 40, the ones I like to listen to. And I sold my soul for this watering hole, and I sold my soul to the devil. And I sold my soul to be swallowed whole, and I sold my soul to the devil. A Tuesday night in the city, swimming in Corso Dill, enough to drown a horse. 'Cause I can't leave here, even if I wanted to. I gotta let this run its course. But I don't tell you how to raise your kids. Don't tell me how to play the game. 'Cause I'm at home now, and I'm locked in ever since I signed my name. And I sold my soul for this watering hole, and I sold my soul to the devil. And I sold my soul to be swallowed whole, and I sold my soul to the devil. And I sold my soul, and I sold my soul, and I sold my soul, and I sold my soul.
Beautiful song there. David Tapley of Tandem Felix. That is it for our show, Rhythm and Roots, this week. We're going to finish the show with a bit of Dutch Coleman, going to raise some bacon, and we will be back next week with much more Rhythm and Roots fun and more music from Tandem Felix and indeed Aaron and Dani McDonnell. Good night.
Well, I'm a poor old farmer. I'm not out doing it very good. You wanna know the reason? Not managed like I should. For I can raise potatoes, I can raise peas cells, and if you got plenty for to eat at home, the mercy can go to Lord, Lord. Gonna raise some bacon, yes sir. Gonna raise some corn. If I don't, I'm a-going busted, not gonna take me long. I've always believed it, and I always will. You can't depend on cotton feed your grocery bill. For if you trade on a credit, you're sure to get skint. For the merchant that charge you great big price and then 20%, my lord. Better raise some bacon, yes sir. Better raise some corn. If you don't, you go and bust it, not gonna take you long. You'll see them farmers going to town, they don't look very neat. You see them go in a grocery store, buy some fatback meat. They sell the cotton at 15 cents, and meat costs 20 cents a pound. They ought to raise some bacon and stay away from town. My lord, you better raise some bacon, yes sir. Better raise some corn. If you don't, you go and bust it, not gonna take you long. Now, Mr. Farmer, you ought to stop and think, and this fact realize. You can't raise cotton to buy your corn and pay for your fertilize. Them old cows and them mules could talk these words, you'd hear them say. My Lord of mercy, I'm tired of cotton, won't you grow me some corn and hay? Good Lord, better raise some bacon, yes sir. Better raise some corn. If you don't, you go and bust it, not gonna take you long. Now, Mr. Farmer, you oughtn't complain about groceries being so high, when you can raise plenty for to eat at home and never have to buy. And just as long as I depend on cotton, that old gray mule will say, not able to plow today.